a playlist original.
You guys gonna do it tonight or what?
Stop!
The hell is that?
What does he want?
Can we help you?
Well, maybe we're on his property.
I'm gonna turn your lights off.
That guy was a freak.
So let's get out of here. All right, let's go.
Come on, he's gone. You see anybody?
No, nobody.
Hello?
I don't think anyone's here.
Hey, where's that house of wax? It is wax. Literally.
This is weird.
Looks like a hell of a party. Look how detailed this is. Tell me this doesn't look real.
You're saying that that's a real person underneath?
They're all wax, everyone. Help! Please, somebody! They're out there. You gotta be careful.
I am being careful.
What's going on?
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your host Gaius and Jackson, an anniversary episode for May. Full disclosure, since we're good about being pretty honest with you guys, we are filming and recording a May pick right now, even though we still owe you an April one. But you know, it's our show; we can do what we want. But we promise we will give you that April one, Virgin Suicides, which is Jackson's pick. That'll be coming very soon as well. But we are also. But we also know that we're very behind with the anniversaries. You know, we have an April one left over, which is Virgin Suicides. This is our first May when we're recording, and it's actually May 29th as of this one. This anniversary in particular happened on May 6th, and we still have Jackson's Kingdom of Heaven to do and your listener's pick for The Empire Strikes Back. So there's a little behind, but we'll catch up. We promise. And honestly, for what we have planned for June, it'll be a lot easier because we have something that we're going to combine into one, and then the other one, you know, we'll have just a listener's pick for you guys to choose from. So technically, there will only be 2 anniversary episodes in June, but one of those will be kind of a double feature
sort of thing.
Yeah. So we're working on it. We're catching up, but just want to give you guys keep it honest on Back to the Blockbuster. It gets hard because, like we said, we love doing the anniversaries, but when we go through the list, it's hard to choose sometimes for us, and then hard to choose which ones we're going to let you guys pick from, and then scheduling, and then our lives, and then try to make it all work. But we love the anniversary so much, so yeah, we love the anniversaries shows a lot, so that's why we want to keep doing them. So we make it work nonetheless. But this one is my pick, and Jackson is the one that actually posts up the anniversary post on Instagram. And I can't remember exactly what he said when he put up the 2 choices. But he basically, okay. If you remember exactly what you said, I thought it was perfect. Kind of because based on what choices we ended up going with.
Yes.
It was
you're referencing how my pick and your pick, I think, my pick of what did I have up against the
Kingdom
of Heaven? And you
yeah.
had this. I think I said something along the lines of like, I think these picks really represent our tastes, like humorously, like very much a Gaius pick, and Kingdom of Heaven is very much something that I would stereotypically choose as well. I thought that was funny making that post with both of those up against each other. I couldn't help myself.
They are very different movies. Because I picked House of Wax, which came out in 2005, so it turned 20 on May 6th. So yeah, very much different movies that we would end up going with for the month of May. But it was one that in May I was like, kind of want to do it because like I hadn't watched it in a while, and I remember it being fun when I first saw it. I've actually seen it like a handful of times since it came out in theaters. Like the last time I watched it was, I believe, 2021 when like the Shout Factory special edition came out. So that was like the last time I popped it in, and then I watched it for this morning for this recording. Yeah, it is very I guess it's a good representation of our taste in a funny way. Like he's not trying to say I have poor taste.
No,
like,
not by any means.
I'm definitely more forgiving of movies like this than maybe say Jackson is, and then also like because of it's like a generational thing too. Like I remember when this came out in theaters,
exactly,
and kind of the whole marketing campaign behind it was a big thing when it came out, especially Paris Hilton's part of it. She actually had a lot of fun toying with her image and the idea that people would want to see this movie just to watch her die. So she came up with a fun little marketing campaign to go along with the movie. It's not high art by any means, but still find it to be fun. And there are things about it technically that I do really like. I mean, I think for a slasher movie like this, it has higher production values than most, which probably explains its $40 million budget, because you can kind of see a bit of that on screen. But for those that don't know, how do you pronounce the director's name? Because it's actually
you're asking the wrong guy. I have no idea. I don't even know.
So I think it's Jaume Collet-Serra, who actually this is directorial debut. He went on to direct. He went on to direct Orphan, The Shallows. He did Unknown with Liam Neeson, Nonstop with Liam Neeson, Run All Night with Liam Neeson, and The Commuter with Liam Neeson. He also directed Jungle Cruise and Black Adam. He did Carry On recently on Netflix with Taron Egerton. So he has gone on to actually have a pretty decent directing career since this. And it stars Elisha Cuthbert, Chad Michael Murray, Brian Van Holt in a dual role, actually, Paris Hilton and Jared Padalecki, along with John Abrahams as well. It is a remake of the 1953 film The Same Name, which starred Vincent Price, which itself was a remake of the 1933 film Mystery of the Wax Museum, which is based on the story of the Wax Works by Charles S. Belden. The movie was released on May 6, 2005. It grossed $70.1 million worldwide, received very negative reviews from critics when it came out, but has gone on to build a bit of a cult following, which I kind of saw when it celebrated its actual anniversary on May 6th. A lot of people were shouting it down on social media. What it does get praised for is for not being a straight remake of House of Wax, and kind of I hate to say it like in name only, because there are elements that are similar.
Yeah, and it kind of has negative connotations sometimes saying that, but I was thinking about that in preparation for this episode, like after doing a little bit of a dive on the 1953 version, and there's a little bit of crossover, but ultimately like the narrative is very, very different.
Yeah, they went with the whole, they made it a slasher film more than anything, and it is kind of reminiscent of like slasher films from like the 80s a little bit, and like kind of ones that we got in the late 90s. And I also kind of see in this remake there, I mean, I know you're not a fan of the remake when we talked about it, but like visually and like in its execution, it seemed like it took a lot of notes from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake that came out 2 years before this. And I kind of think this was part of this. Well, I mean, we got Halloween 2 years after this, and then we got Friday the 13th a couple years there, but like it seemed like this is when this was dying out a little bit, where they were like, I feel like they were just kind of throwing darts at the board. We're like, let's remake this one, let's remake that one, and this landed on that list.
I mean, in the height of the 2000s horror remake, wave. Like this is one of 4 that came out in 2005 that were like classic horror. Like we had The Fog and the Amityville Horror were both remade in the year that The House of Wax was remade. And then another one that I wasn't familiar with, maybe you are, The Deadly Hostage. But it was quite the year for classic horrors being remade. But you'd said something earlier that I just wanted to chime in about, is that narratively, this did make me think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, specifically the original, just in the fact that you have a deformed serial killer at their like ancestral home, luring tourists and passerby and making wacky
family
and doing horrific things with their bodies. Like there was a lot of
there's also
overlap
like
with that story.
Shades of like Wrong Turn. I was thinking about that a little bit when I was watching this. There's some of that in it.
Very much. I love that series.
You know, visually, you get that too, and it's also the whole like. I mean, a lot of these movies, if you are like getting tired of driving and you don't ever say, let's just pull over here and camp out, or if someone says like, hey, if you take this way, it'll be a lot shorter. Like, don't listen to them. Just go.
Very
on
Wrong Turn inspired.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that in it. So, you know, I could go into what it was like when I first saw it, but I know that I think I mentioned this movie to you before, and you were like, you weren't like the hugest fan of it.
I remember speaking about it, and I think I told you that I'd seen it, but I don't remember going into detail. But maybe I kind of showed my cards.
Okay, well now you can a little bit.
Yeah,
now if you rewatch it, what are kind of like your cliff notes for like thoughts on it?
You know what? I went in. There was parts of the movie where like I kind of checked out. Like there was just like it very much is, and sometimes I appreciate this with certain films over others, but it is a product of its time. It really wears its 2000s horror tropes on its sleeve, which is definitely, you know, there's a part of that I find endearing as well. And I try to like remember that this is a product of a certain time. But overall, like after stewing on it, and when I was done the watch, I only got it in yesterday, so it's still fresh in my brain. I sort of appreciated, like you kind of hinted earlier on when we started recording, about the technical aspects of this movie. The production value is incredible. Like all of the titular house itself was done incredibly well. All practical effects. Supposedly it's made out of peanut butter. That was the wax that we were seeing melt. I was like that, and it looked amazing. Awesome. It's rated, I think it was appropriately rated 18A, like, and it didn't shy away from any of like the grotesque gore, which is something that I know I've complained about several horror movies we've covered on the show when they don't go all the way. This movie, there was a couple sequences where I literally like was cringing out of like disgust and almost like pain, particularly poor Jared Padalecki's character.
Yeah,
really gets it bad.
That his well, I hate to say death scene because I feel like it's just a long
torture scene
sequence of suffering that he goes through.
Sequence of suffering that is nice.
It's the final thing that happens with him, with John Abraham's character, when he finds him already encased in wax. And I remember seeing that in theaters and being like, oh, this is so like deeply disturbing. And it still is, the fact that like, you know, he can't talk and like you only see his like eyes moving. And I know this is done for shock value. Like he's peeling away at this, trying to get him out of this stuff that he's encased in, and it's clearly ripping his flesh like off. And he's just like, oh man, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get you out of there. And I think what got me, I know this is like a really like, it's a horror movie and it's supposed to be fun and it's cheesy, but the fact that they added that extra layer of him tearing up as he's ripping it off was like, I was like, oh, that's what made that like more painful to watch. But yeah, he goes through a lot. Actually, Wade goes through a lot through the entire movie. I'm going to talk about some character stuff that is weird to me in this movie. But yeah, like I agree with you. Like I'm glad that it goes all out on the gore front. You know, we're rated R here and in the States, so it really went for it, and I think that's why a lot of people like it. That it doesn't hold back on that. There are a few moments in the movie that, other than that one, you know, Elisha Cuthbert's hurt the tip of her finger, gets it in a really gross way.
That was another moment. I was like, and it was just such a,
it was the noise,
such a discreet,
the sound effect that they used, and like just it was like the subtle like crack, and then like and then she couldn't really like, you know, scream because you know, I forgot that he glues her mouth shut. Like, so that's another thing. Like that was, so I appreciate that it goes out all all out for that. But what I can objectively talk about now, even though I still enjoy it and it's fun, I believe even though it's 113 minutes for this feels too long, it feels like a really long movie.
Yeah,
like, I think because like the build, like, and it's weird because like normally in a horror movie, any movie, I would appreciate the build up. Like I the one remake just in horror that I can think of that I think starts off pretty slow, but I think it works. Like the Hills Have Eyes remake is kind of a slow build. Like nothing really happens until that trailer attack, and that's almost like 45 minutes in, or maybe a little bit longer.
Okay.
So like, but like the characters are interesting. So and you're fine with it taking that long to get there. With this, it felt like there is like a lot of build up, and it's almost certain parts of the movie could be its own film. Like there's like the opening with all the friends, and then you got like Wade and Carly, like, you know, having to get the fan belt and exploring that part, and then them getting like kind of caught up there, and then you have Chad Michael Murray's character and John Dalton having to go look for them, and then you have Paris Hilton and her boyfriend at the campsite. Like it's just all these like little things that have to happen before you get to the climax, and so it makes it feel a lot longer than it probably should. I don't know if you actually felt the length when you were watching it.
I was a little bit unfortunately, like, so I went in, like, for whatever reason, I had like looked it up on IMDb before watching it just to kind of see how much time I had decided to set aside to watch it. And for whatever reason, I was convinced it was an hour and a half, like on the dot. I was like, that's perfect. That's exactly the length this movie needs to be. And then I remember throwing it on. I rented it and I saw an hour 53. I was like, oh boy, I already know. So I already went into the watch on, okay, I already know this is 15 minutes longer than I think it's going to need to be. But ultimately, like, the pacing was all right. I think it could have felt slower, but there were definitely some sequences that could have been readjusted or taken out. But ultimately, it wasn't my biggest complaint in the movie. And ultimately, like I said, I did appreciate some of the charm of it. But I think where the movie had the biggest opportunity to improve was in the writing, and particularly the characters. Like I did feel this suffered from one-dimensional character syndrome, and which was
they all are,
they all very much are, and like especially who I love, Chad Michael Murray. It was great. I forgot he was in this movie, so that was neat. But his characters, like melodramatic, like shitty attitude in the beginning of it for no reason to us.
Just a bad.
It's just like why? Like I would rather see a little bit or get a little bit of a taste as to why he is this way. I get that his sister character, Elisha Cuthbert, kind of alludes that he has this persona of like the evil twin or the bad misfit twin. But
they drive that home real hard as like
they
a theme
do
of the movie. Yeah.
But as audience members in the beginning, like the first sequences of the movie, we just see him like being a dick for the sake of being a dick. And it's like, that came across very, I don't know, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But yeah, other than that, like the characters, it's not a movie for its characters. I think it had a lot of other things to display and other strengths, but unfortunately, but it's very much the case with a lot of movies from this time period. I think horror audiences just at this time, and you can maybe speak to this a little bit more, horror was sort of changing in this era, and it was more focused on like the scares and the gore and just some other tropes that were common in the 2000s rather than like fleshed out characters and intricate story weaving, which something that I like, but I guess I didn't really expect it either. So
it was much different. I mean, I'm surprised in 2005 that they actually opted to make this a slasher movie, because like the slasher genre, subgenre had kind of died off at this point. You know, we were kind of far and removed from when Scream, and I Know You Did Last Summer, and Urban Legend were successful. You know, at this point, we had gotten into like found footage and like other kind of types of horror movies. So the fact that they actually, I think that's why I enjoyed it at the time, because I like that subgenre of horror, because I think it's fun. You know, this movie and then another movie that came out a few years later, like the Sorority Row remake, is like a pure like slasher movie that kind of harkens back to like slasher movies of like the 80s and stuff, and it kind of is a fun little throwback to that time. But I am surprised that they went that route, because this was not the subgenre that was big when this movie was made. But I think like they kind of leaned into it, knowing that like people who do like the subgenre, they appreciate, you know, you're right, the characters are really like one dimensional. I mean, you know, Paris Hilton's character, like, you know, there is a best friend character like that in almost every slasher movie that gets to have their really cool, like fun chase scene, like with the killer. And then like a lot of people love those sequences, and this one has it's fun. It is what it is, but like it definitely is like she's playing a type, and even Elisha Cuthbert, they're all playing types. You have the Dalton characters more there for comic relief. Richard Ricard, I believe his name. He's the only black guy, so he's our token black. So,
it nails all the characters. 100%. It does. Yeah.
And then Wade, you have like you always you could have like the good boyfriend or the good guy in those movies, and then you might have the bad boy like Michael Murray, and like so it really is playing to all those stereotypes. And I guess depending on how you look at it, you can be like, oh, this is like so like typical of what this is. Or
I think that's kind of how I viewed it.
Yeah. Or some people enjoy it because it's like those tropes are so familiar that they have fun with them. Yes. And I think that depends on like what kind of audience like is watching it. And I can totally understand why you were like, oh, this is
Well, I should know better. It's not that like it took me out of the movie. I guess I didn't approach this watch in the vein where I could appreciate the tropes, whereas I kind of looked at it this time around like I'm maybe because we just have seen so many other slashers like for the purposes of the show, maybe in the last little bit that I was kind of like, hey, I'm looking for, or maybe I'm just like inclined to enjoy horror movies maybe from a more recent period. I don't know what it was, because there's times I think if we had watched this together, I'd be way more appreciative of seeing the same old tropes while watching it. But where I just watched it by myself on a sunny afternoon, I was kind of like, I've seen this before, and like, what new is it adding? But I guess next time I watch it, I will go in just sort of expecting to have fun with the tropes rather than complain about them. But sometimes it depends on the mood that you're in, I think.
Yeah, but I can totally understand what you mean, because it is. I mean, it really does hit all the like the nail on the head with every single one. You can watch one of these movies that came out in the 80s and be like, yep, this is exactly like
you can make a drinking game out of it.
Yeah, every box is checked off for them.
Yeah.
And they even try to add like this, like there's a moment in the third Friday the 13th movie that's in 3D where they give one of the random side characters, like they make her like randomly in her dialogue say that like she's like eating for two now, so she's pregnant for no reason other than they make her like a little bit sympathetic. And they do that here with like Paige like Paris Hilton trying to talk to her boyfriend before they both die, that something she's like, I don't want to scare you, blah blah blah, and they're alluding to the fact that might be the case with her. And like I just thought that was funny too, that like it's like last minute bit of dialogue to like make that character more sympathetic, like thinking to myself like no one in that audience really cares that Paige, that her character might be pregnant, like, but it was what they did in those movies back then too. They did it in this one just to kind of like, because like the big complaint for those movies in the 80s was like, oh, you don't care about any of the characters, like they're just there to add to the body count, so there's nothing there about them beyond like they're there to die. And so they would like kind of throw in like little dialogue like that, like, oh, I should care because you threw in like one throwaway line to make
takes a little bit more effort than that to really get the audience. It's hard to circumvent though, like when you know what you're getting, 95% of the cast is going to die. It is hard to really get attached and invested in characters like that, but it takes more than a throwaway pregnancy line for sure.
Yeah. I do want to ask you, because this gets brought. I wanted to bring it up first before I brought up anything else before I forget. This gets brought up a lot about the movie. It got brought up a lot on its anniversary. It gets brought up a lot in the years since it come out. I've talked about this with I believe Mark too, because he is covering. I think he already covered it. I don't know if he released it yet, but he's covering this movie too. The character dynamics between the brother and sister are weird. I mean, the way I can't tell if it's the way it's performed or the way it's written. But for years, and people still talk about it, like Michael Murray and Elisha Cuthbert give off more we're a couple chemistry rather than we're brother sister chemistry. And his like kind of hostility towards Wade gives I'm jealous because you're with, like I'm jealous not because I'm trying to protect my sister, but more so like I'm jealous because I it's a weird thing to like bring up. But,
it's
like
slightly incestuous. Yeah,
that was the energy I got, and actually it goes that route through the entire movie. Even when they start to be more soft with each other, when it's like, oh, like he's like trying to protect her. There's something about their chemistry. I don't know if it's the direction or if it's how it was written, but like I do not get the vibe that like it's like a brother sister thing. They give off kind of like feisty, flirty were a couple energy, and I just kind of want to know what you thought about that.
So oddly enough, this didn't occur to me while watching, except in retrospect, I remember thinking to myself that his Chad Michael Murray's behavior towards the character of Wade, and him, just like I kind of mentioned this earlier about how like he just, when we're first introduced to him, he's like just kind of pissed off and rude and mean, and particularly to Wade, just for him to say later when Dalton's talking about Wade that he doesn't even mind Wade, he doesn't have a problem with him.
Yeah, he's all right. Yeah,
exactly. He's not that bad.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, okay, this is like weird, but I kind of just attributed it to like the writing, like of this is Chad Michael Murray and he's playing a one-dimensional like bad boy character. He's just going to be rude to everybody. But while going through the movie, it never occurred to me anyway that I thought that those characters were like the brother and sister were in any way, like I didn't pick up on that chemistry, I guess is what I'm saying, until after and reading what other people had said about it and going through like the IMDb trivia. And apparently a lot of people, like you mentioned, picked up on this and even have suggested that in an alternate making of this movie that Jared Padalecki and Chad Michael Murray's characters be swapped by them because of the chemistry. That would make it for an interesting switch up. Well, I guess we'll never know what that movie would be like, but I will say that I did not really buy Jared Padalecki and Elisha Cuthbert's like romantic chemistry throughout. Like they have good chemistry, but it didn't come across as romantic. It did come across like best friends or really close siblings. So it was
they could easily be friends or
sure.
brother and sister. They should have switched that out. Like if I don't know. I guess like once people are cast and they're playing the people they're playing, but like I feel like if I was a director, I'd just be like, oh, we cast this wrong. Like we cast this all wrong. We need to like switch this out. Now I think like at the end of the day, Chad Michael Murray at that time and Elisha Cuthbert were both bigger names of the cast. Like she, from 24 and he was on One Tree Hill. So like I guess like he couldn't like he wouldn't be playing Wade because Wade was like a supporting character and he dies. And I get that they're the two leads. So there, once you saw what was playing out on screen, you can really be like, oh, we should make this switcheroo real quick. But I definitely felt it. I was like, she has better chemistry with her brother than she does with the guy playing her boyfriend. And it's awkward at times too, like where it's just kind of like, and like when they're like kind of when he's riffing at him and like making fun of him, and it's just like, dude, you're coming off more like you're jealous, not that you're protecting her. And then her defense of him seems more like like a upset girlfriend rather than like an upset sister. And like a part of me wishes I could be there to did they know that? Like were they really like playing that way? Are everyone watching it? Are we weird for picking up on that? But
I wonder if they were canoodling offset.
I know. I mean, it's a very good looking cast. They probably all were. I mean, well, Chad Michael Murray was seeing Sophia Bush at the time, but he did cheat on her around this time. So there's that.
What do I know? What I know you mentioned she played on 24, but I know the name of Elisha Cuthbert more than I know her performances, and I'm just kind of curious because I haven't looked her up yet.
She was in The Girl Next Door with Emile Hirsch. She plays like a porn star that lives next door to his character. It's like a teen movie. It's actually a pretty good teen movie. And she's on a show called Happy Endings. She has a small part in Love Actually, but
I'm seeing that now, which I would have seen. Oh God. Yeah. I wouldn't know who she was when I'd seen her in that, though. I don't think
she was one of those. I feel like she was one of those actresses that was meant to be much bigger now. Like they wanted to make her a big thing, and she had a moment, and then that moment passed. But she was decently big during this time period, though. I mean, I'm big enough for her to lead this, and like they'd be cool with her leading it. But yeah, it's just interesting that's like the vibe they give off. It's just, and I'm glad that like now I kind of think that maybe we're weird or I'm weird for like, or other people are weird.
No, for, like, a lot of other people have mentioned this. I think I was just kind of like, what's the word? Just not. I wasn't picking up on it. Probably I was just oblivious, is what I'm trying to say to it. Just because I don't know. I was probably just like nitpicking other aspects of the movie. But even weirder than that, and this is something that I only discovered after looking into this, is why was this movie shot in Australia? That I can't get over that. That's just so odd to me.
I want to assume that it's like tax incentives or something. Maybe I don't know. I remember I was looking at behind the scenes thing when they're because Paris Hilton has like a new interview on the Shout Factory special edition, and she mentioned that they shot it there, and I didn't know that until she said it.
Yeah,
I
thought that was so perplexing.
To take I mean, because like I feel like you could have done this in like Texas. I don't know.
Like, so I get
perfectly fine.
I understand that other countries like provide tax incentives for like Hollywood productions to like get the production to film there, and it creates a lot of jobs in the area that they film and stuff. But as a production, are you not shelling out like so many more dollars by flying your cast and crew there, like paying for them to stay? Like, is it actually worth it? I just find that so crazy. It's like the other side of the world. But,
and nothing about it screams you have to shoot it there.
No, yeah. If there were some sequences where they needed Australian terrain or something, but like you said, Southern Texas would have like done so well, or even like on location in Louisiana where it takes place would have made so much sense. Yeah. But I just thought it was hilarious when I saw that. And the town is like created for the movie and like fake.
Right, it could have been made. I mean, it could have been done like on the back lot somewhere. Yeah, like one of the studios, like here, like it is like it's a Warner Brothers movie, so it could have been done on the Burbank lot. Like,
yeah, there you go,
and perfectly fine. I mean, I do love that they created a whole town. I mean, it does look really cool that they created this whole kind of ghost town, and like you get the vibe that it's. I do love that you get the vibe that it's isolated and no one's there, but I do love that at first glance when they're going, like when they first go to all the places, like when they walk into the church and like so like for someone for the fan belt for their car, that at first glance, if other than like Brian Van Holt's character who's kneeling down over the casket, everyone in that room looks real at first glance, and then until they go back and explore it later, and then it's clearly like everyone's fake. I thought that was cool how they set that up.
Even the puppies in the
in the window,
store window, that legit. I'd seen this movie before and was obviously aware that the whole thing is a set. And while watching it yesterday and seeing the baby puppies in the window, I was like, "Those got to be real."
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Other than some character stuff, I know you mentioned there were some other things some tropes that you did not enjoy. What were some of the ones that?
Oh yes.
What's something that bothered you?
This is not answering your question. I'll get there. Before I forget, because I've been waiting to shout it out, but shout out to the white tank top appearance, hallmark of any good 2000 slasher.
Yeah,
Elisha Cuthbert gets the white tank top, so that's great.
We saw Elijah Dushku in one in Wrong Turn. Jessica Biel rocks one in the Texas Chainsaw. It was a look in the mid 2000s. Horror movies back then,
and I love it. Like that was when I was like, hey, that's it's almost like an in-universe like or breaking the fourth wall sort of thing. Like
I do think it's funny that her brother gives her the same time.
Yes.
Not only is it, but also
Here
I guess
you go, sweetheart.
To give, but also to give, I guess, Chad Michael Murray an obligatory like shirtless scene because the camera does it lingers on him after he takes it off. I was like, what? This is just they know what they're selling, I guess. Like, and she also lands in like what? It's like shit, right? Or is it dead carcass? Is animal carcasses, right? That
it's like mushy, decayed animals. But to answer your question though, because there is something that I wrote down as a trope that just drives me nuts, and I can't think of any other examples, but I know it's featured in many movies from this era, not just horror, but the annoying friend with the camcorder who only exists for characters to tell him to turn it off and put it away. It drives me nuts. I was kind of like laughing at it because I'm like, I don't know what the craze was with camcorders. Obviously, they were a thing when I was growing up, but I wasn't like of age to like have and use one when they were a thing. Maybe you can like explain what the fascination was and why there's at least a character in every friend group in every movie that has a camcorder and just gets in people's business with it. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, that's one thing that drove me nuts about this movie.
This movie doesn't even need it. Like most of the time, like in found footage movies, there's like that one person that has it because like
and that's
it makes sense.
Yes,
even then sometimes that starts not to make sense because you're like, why would you still be holding on to the camera during all this chaos and destruction? Like, why are you still filming? It was a big thing during, and that character, you're right. Dalton and Steve only exists for comic relief. He's not
Yes.
All that funny.
No.
And then he's also there just to like they have that whole sequence at the campsite where he's filming them and they're all annoyed. Like get the camera.
Yes.
Some of them are annoyed. Like get the camera off me. And like I think one of the characters like shoots their like shakes their beard and like shoots it in his face. And he gets mad. Yo, you got on the camera, dude. Like it's that is an annoying trope at that time. However, I think I had a camcorder during that point. I mean,
and I would have too if I was.
They're like there was like a whole thing about capturing
now.
Memories, like and we do it on phones now. But yeah, that character does seem to exist only for that, and then also to add to like to have that whole point like when they fall asleep that like the mysterious figure who we know later to be one of the brothers like takes the camera and is like recording them while they're asleep. And I guess that's the other reason that is there. So you can have that one little like scary sequence of him watching them, which isn't all that scary either.
Not particularly.
But yeah,
that was a standout.
That's one trope that also there all the characters do a lot of stupid things that like it's hard to forgive. I know there would be no movie without them doing it.
Right.
Like
any examples?
There's nothing like one they like all engage on wanting to separate. I know like that they have the excuse with some of them that wanted to go to the game because the whole point of this thing is that they're all going to this like big game a college football game that they want to get to. And but like when they fall asleep and after this whole I forgot the whole altercation with the whole thing with the truck with this like pulls up on them and like flashes their lights on them and they do things that like I would do in that situation.
You wouldn't chuck a beer bottle at a stranger's vehicle.
I know, right?
Again, Nick being Nick.
Just kind of like what the fuck? And then the way he like does it and then walks up in the camera and like me bugging. Like he's a thug. Like he's like a full-on thug. I wouldn't do that. I also wouldn't want like they're looking for Wade and Carly are looking for this fan belt in town and they stumble upon like the whole like ghost town and the wax museum, and I would feel no need to want to look around at all. I'm like, we came here for a fan belt. That's all we're here for. But like some horror movies are like a prime example of like shit that white people do. Like, oh, let's go check it out. Let's go. Like, why would I want to do that?
Let's go.
Like, and honestly, it's mostly Wade. It's all mostly Wade's fault. Like, he is so enamored with like, and then like there's this sense of entitlement. Like, doors are just unlocked, so they're like, I think one of them mentions like, well, it's unlocked, we just go in. Like,
I think it is
there's
Wade.
Like, things like that I just can't justify like at all. Like when I was watching, I was like, why would you like want to take the time to like? And they stay inside the House of Wax initially way too long. Yeah, like they're in there like just roaming around, touching shit. Like I would not be curious about like Vincent's art or any of that stuff. I'm like, let's get the fuck out of here. Like what?
Exactly.
Or I would let you go explore.
Or
I would let you go. Even though I don't think we should separate, I probably just let you go explore alone inside there. I don't know. Like I just wouldn't. It's just stuff like that. And this is like a product of like 80s slash movies too, where like characters have to separate. They have to go. They have to be all curious for no real reason. Because like there's no one in my friend group that'd be curious enough to check any of this stuff out. I'm like, yo, we can't find the fan belt. Let's go back to our friends, back to the car. Like, I don't know. I'm sure it wasn't like close enough to walk. But,
no. I think you mentioned it's like 15 miles. The character, the roadkill character says it's like 15 miles up the road.
So yeah, there's a whole lot of that. A whole lot of things where characters just like, and then I love how entitled Wade is, even though like this guy's bad, but like they're in there like looking for the fan belts, and Bo or I always forget one who's which, Bo or Vincent, who's the good.
Bo is the
non-defigured one.
Defigured, yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, when he comes in and he's like, "Oh, you thinking about stealing that?" And he's like, "Oh, no." He's like, "I left money on the counter," but he's so condescending. He's like, "But you didn't even have the right size." Like he's just so like condescending and rude that you're like, "Oh, you're gonna get it, dude." I mean, I don't. It's just stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. Still, I don't think there's anybody who deserved the fate of Wade in this movie. Like it is like I think he's up there for one of the worst like horror movie fates of anything. Because beyond like, and when I mentioned this earlier, the gruesome like the things that made me grimace in this movie, the close up of his his Achilles tendon getting snipped
getting
was
cut.
like,
Yeah.
oh my god, that was one of the worst. Like, and that's just the beginning of what happened to his character. But yeah, that one was.
I will
really
say
bad.
that sequence pays off. I do like how they see her notice that was the truck that had the headlight busted out from her brother throwing the beer bottle at it. Right. And then I love how like they did that scene too, where we see that it's pitch dark in the room now, but then you're seeing it from his perspective, so you actually can see what's going on in the scene. Like it is completely dark in that room, but like to show that, they just showed like what Wade would be seeing in complete darkness, and that was pretty freaky too. And then when he gets to the door and he realizes it's locked, like you can kind of feel that kind of like, you know, anxiousness and kind of like like fear a bit. Like he does get it pretty bad. I mean, starting with getting his Achilles cut, and then he's like stabbed, and then and then like we have to watch him get like dragged through the thing, and then they put like the thing on his face to rip his like eyebrow, his face off. And it's interesting because he is the nicest person in the movie, arguably, but he gets it the worst.
And I think just watching him being subjected to the boiling wax treatment and like made into the figurine, and essentially, is it him? Yeah, no, he's alive until essentially it burns down in the end, right? Is that what we're meant to believe, or did I miss something?
Well, I got the impression that like because like Pete Dalton's like peeling his like face and stuff, and then Vincent goes to like slice at Dalton and misses and cuts off half of his
which
face.
Was a great effect.
I assumed he died there because his eyes roll up in the back of his head a little bit.
Okay, I think I missed that.
But like, but the fact that he's alive for that whole time up until that scene, I mean, what a cool horror movie death scene though to have. I mean, it really was like, and like I said, it is a sequence of suffering because it doesn't stop. It's where he gets like stabbed. Like you watch the process of him being like encased in it. I do think what became unintentionally funny, and kudos to the actors for like playing it seriously, and then the music for playing it seriously. But I think they see Dalton encased in it, like in the machine.
Oh yeah,
and then Nick is like, and I'm like laughing my ass off when they're taking it so serious. He's like,
get you out of there, buddy.
And then buddy, and he like breaks his head off, and then like her reaction, you would think she was like going for an Oscar, dude, because she starts bawling and like like it was played with like zero irony though. Like they played that scene so straight, and I was like, I don't know how they played it straight without, because I would have been like, because it was like so unintentionally funny. It's just like the noise, and then like, and it wasn't just her. They both were like, this was a serious moment for them to play, and I guess they can't play it for the joke, but I guess like the whole thing is like the audience would find it funny. And I wonder if they had to know that there would be some humor in that, I guess.
Dalton's actual death sequence, though, is a highlight of the movie, I think, as well. That was a great shot. I mean, it does cheat a little bit, at least in the version I watched. We see Vincent come down with his like dual knives and like kind of cross and cut his head off. And when I saw it, I don't know if there's a different version. Like you don't see the camera's just above his head, so we don't see them go into them, and then the head kind of rolls into the foreground of the screen just afterwards. So it's a pretty neat death after a wicked tumble down the stairs. That was a good moment. All the kills actually, like I know I was like, most of my complaints of this movie are out of the way now, but like the technical stuff and the death sequences, like everything that you want to go well in a horror movie, I think this movie had, including like the most important stuff of all, which is like the tension when characters are being hunted or chased throughout all the different sets of this movie are always great. Paris Hilton's sequence is a highlight too, and the deaths are great. And not of them, luckily for the characters, they're not all as drawn out as Wade's, but they are effective nonetheless. I do think that Paris Hilton's best moment is her demise. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. I mean, because like you are. I mean, I know you know who she is, but like you certainly weren't like during the height of her being.
I never really understood what she was famous for. I'm from that era where like I knew she was like ultra famous rich celebrity when I was a kid, but never really knew. Is her dad like a hotel?
Well, so her dad and her I think it's her dad, but like the Hiltons like own like the Hilton hotels.
Yes,
like she's a heiress to that. So for a while she was just famous for being famous.
and then
and then
reality TV,
she had,
right?
then she had a sex tape, and then reality TV.
Oh, she had a sex tape too.
Yeah,
okay.
which is why she allows them to make fun of her. I mean, there's that whole sequence where they're filming from the car to car, and it's like has the green light, and it looks like she's giving her boyfriend's head. And, and then she's like, and they're all kind of like, oh, like whatever, and she's like, oh, I dropped my lip balm. Like that's what that was making fun of that, and she was like, she was game to be made fun of. And I think that's what they and I guess the only reason she got cast, Joel Silver, who produced this, like he's a like mega Hollywood producer. I mean, he's on like did 48 Hours, the Die Hard series, Lethal Weapon, Matrix, like Predator. He produced all those. He is very close friends with her family and thought she'd be good in this. So like that's why he pitched her for it.
Well, on that note, actually, what are your thoughts on her actual performance? Because I saw something afterwards. After watching that said that she kind of like leaned into the camp. I thought that was a polite way of saying she wasn't good of acting talent, because I kind of took her performance at face value. Yes, like there's some campy like identity or DNA in this movie for sure, but like I've never seen her perform anything else, so I kind of just interpreted her performance as anybody would watching Paris Hilton act. Yeah. And that was a sense that she wasn't very talented. But do you think that it was more the latter or the former?
So I don't think she's terrible.
Not terrible, not the worst.
I feel like I've seen worse, especially in these kind of movies. I mean, like she certainly like I think she holds her own for the most part. I'm trying to think about what it was like when I saw it then and watching it now. You know, she was honestly the selling point in the marketing, though. They used her a lot to sell the movie. I mean, the whole they had t-shirts made that said "See Paris Die" that they sold locally, and like they ended up selling out, and it was a huge marketing pull thing because a lot of people back then didn't like her. I mean, because like she was one of those girls, because she was one of those girls on reality TV and like who was famous for the sake of being famous, kind of like the original like Kim Kardashian a bit,
right?
And you know, but she was aware of that, and I think that. There is something to be said about someone who is self-aware and to know that everyone doesn't love her, and those people will want to watch her die in a movie like that. So like for her to lean into that, I thought was pretty clever and funny.
Yeah, for sure about that. She was the first person cast in this movie too, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, they cast everyone around her, and she, you know, she. On the thing I watched, she did speak about being nervous. It was her first movie, but she said everyone was super generous to her. I think she said her and Elisha Cuthbert are still friends today. Like, and like, you know, they all got along. But I think that I just wonder what the other actors thought at first, because they're like we've been doing this forever, or like, we've been doing this a long time, and now, this celebrity? And now this girl who's ever acted a day in her life, other than like doing like The Simple Life, which is like a reality show she was on back in the day, and she did some TV appearances and stuff, but this was her first big thing. Right. I thought that she gave proper emotions during her like big chase scene, like it, like you know, like she hey, all you gotta do is be a good screamer. She was a good screamer. She looks I think she looks so afraid because she said she was afraid doing it. Probably, most people say I can see that. Most people say when they make horror movies that they're so like they're laughing by the end of it because it's so silly. But I don't want to call her stupid. But I kind of feel like she kind of was like this is so real.
Yeah, that's a great impression. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
That's hilarious. Why she kind of felt that, but that worked for her, I guess. You know, like I feel like she probably thought she was legitimately being chased and about to be murdered, but it worked for the scene, and she does. The payoff is worth it. I mean, the whole pull rod through the head is
that was a wicked kill. Yeah,
and I love the cut of him you see him just throwing it and it zips through the window and then right through her head. It's like, and then they have her fall down on it. And then he has to take it out.
Extra insult to injury.
You know, I think that apparently she did an interview for the 20th anniversary, and you know, it could just be her talking, but you know what? A lot of people online talk about the scene a lot. She says she's told all the time how iconic her scene is. It's hard not to talk like her if you're like
100% because she's just like the ditzy blonde rich girl persona.
But it is a scene that people mention a lot when they reference the movie, and like I said, I think it has developed a big enough cult following. Like a lot of people do like it more than they probably did when it came out.
is that supposed to be her on the cover? Which I gotta say is a wicked poster.
It's a really good poster. So I don't know for sure, but I always assumed it was supposed to be
I
her.
always assumed it was her too.
Yeah. And it's a really cool poster. And I'm glad they never changed that poster really, like when like even on the Shout Factory edition, like they have a new cover, but you can like flip it and use the original cover for the Blu-ray. Like it really is a really cool poster. And honestly, because if this would have came out in like 99, 2000, 2001, it just would have been a group shot of all of them.
Yeah, exactly. This is an effective horror movie poster. I remember actually browsing the DVD of this movie, like every time I would go into like any of the retail stores when I was a kid, and I would every time like my parents would go in to like buy music or something, I would always wander the halls, or like when I was going to the mall with my friends and we would go to the movie store, I would always like browse the horror titles, and House of Wax is one of those few that like always stuck with me because of the poster, and it's just so effective. But yeah, I always kind of wondered if it was supposed to be Paris Hilton or not. But
my friend always thought that the whole poster felt like it was representative of her. Like they were like, it looks like her. The tagline looks like something she would say, like "Pray, slay, display." It's like,
it does. That's hilarious.
Like everything feels like something she would do.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess they had to lean in, and I mean, what's crazy? I mean, I guess she technically was the bigger name, not necessarily actor in the group, but she was certainly more popular than the rest of them, and they had legitimate like careers. I know you mentioned like Chad Michael Murray playing the bad boy. Did you actually buy him as that, or did you roll your eyes as?
I don't think it was his performance. I think it was just the writing of his character. I just needed more to buy it. I think he is great at every role he does. Like I liked him in One Tree Hill. I think he was playing the role as it was written fine. I just think the role his character needed a little bit more meat as to like why he is the way he is, which is actually kind of brings me full circle to something that I'm kind of a writing complaint, or something that I think if this movie were made nowadays, the sequence in the beginning where we see the killers like as boys and like their upbringing. Thought that I think I needed a more extended sequences of that. I just didn't buy that was like the reasoning for Vincent to be like this like crazy
all messed up
killer, all messed up. Like I think we just need a little bit more than the parents strapping him to a chair and the mom yelling at him to really flesh out why he is this like monster that he became. I think if this was made today, they'd lean or dedicate a little bit more screen time to that. But yeah, I think there's a little bit just stuff missing in the background of this movie that I think really would have made it like brought it up a level for me.
Yeah, but, they gave you like 2 minutes of like, okay, here's backstory. and I guess like Bo gives a little bit of it, but I don't know how much of it is true when he's like talking to them on the way to his house.
Exactly.
That's another thing. I wouldn't go with him to his home. That was another thing. They're like, because they were perfectly fine getting the 16, right? Because they were like, hey, we can get the 16, it's fine. And then of course she chimes in like, no, let's get the right one. Like I'm like,
right. You can tell she's just trying to like, she just is doing this delicate balance of like trying to make up for Wade's rudeness, I think, and doesn't want to upset him.
Right. And also Wade is clearly an insecure boyfriend because I guess he has reason to be insecure of her relationship with her brother because but then he kind of gets the illusion that like Bo is flirting with her, and then he kind of makes a comment about that when they're walking, and it's like, what, like calm down. And their relationship's in flux too, because like she's going to New York and he doesn't know if he wants to go because he's like a small town boy and she wants to go live in the big city. They like, I think it's interesting that they throw in all these little character things to make you want to care about them. It's just not enough to like really care. Like
exactly. I mean, just falls flat a little bit.
It's just basic like character flourishes. They're like, all right, we get it. Like she's moving, he doesn't want to go. The brother's clearly trouble. And we actually don't even learn why there's an issue until like, I think 15, 20 minutes in, where it's like, he's like mad because like she dimed him out. And like, and then he wasn't even the one that stole the car. You find out that it was Dalton that stole the car. And he took the blame for it because like, he already has a bunch of stains on his jacket.
Right.
What do you think about the screenplay? It's not that good.
Yeah. But also it's not make or break. It's just, there's other things to appreciate. The screenplays is really not one of them.
I just think it's interesting how straight they play it. Like they all play the movie so straight. Like there's not a bit of like, I guess this is like beyond the time where like people were making horror movies like Scream, where there wasn't so much like a wink nudge at the camera.
Right.
Like this is the kind of movie we're in. Like
horror movies were serious again.
Yeah. But we saw so many horror movies with so much wink nudging that I was like, how are they taking this seriously? But like they all are, like every single person in it for the most part is taking that material so seriously and not with a single like jokey connotation behind it. Like that, I thought that was interesting to watch. I don't know if it needed more of that. If it would have been appropriate for them to kind of like play along with the camp a bit more. I don't know how you feel about that, or if it wasn't they played things too seriously, or
maybe I think so, because I found like there's like when I would be watching it and like a silly moment of the writing would present itself. I think that to overcome that, if they were not taking it as seriously, I think that would have kind of fixed that issue for me. But because everybody's playing it so straight, taking it so seriously, like when there would be a ridiculous moment or a bad line of dialogue, I was like, oh, this is kind of hard when it's taking itself seriously and it's not performing up to that standard. But
yeah,
I think the movie isn't as serious as like I probably viewed it. So I think it's a viewership issue. I think it's more, ultimately it's more fun than stupid.
You're right. And honestly, like the situation doesn't get campy. They do have funny lines of dialogue. Some of it was like weirdly, I mean, like when the two characters, I think it's like Nick and Dawson are peeing, and then like he like pushes him. He's like, "Hey man, stop it!" And then the other guy comes up behind him. He's like, "You two gonna have sex?" And they're like, "Huh?"
Yeah, that line was hilarious.
He's like, "Because me and Paige are." Yeah. I'm like, all right. I thought there was another way to like say like, "You guys go pick them up because like I'm gonna bang my girlfriend." Right. It was just really, that's that kind of stuff that was interesting. I will say though, like, we brought the production values are really good. I think the climax itself is well done. I mean, the whole time I was watching it, I was like, oh, I wonder if I can catch the fact that it looks like a special effect. And I guess there are moments where you're like, okay, this is practical and like this is like clearly like aided by CGI, but for the most part, it looks pretty seamless. Like when you're watching the whole like House of Wax like melt away in that fire, it all feels very real. I love like just a little tiny like things of them running through stuff and like their feet actually sinking into the ground.
That
was
like super neat and panic.
I feel like most of the money went to that.
Yeah,
like that.
I agree. There was only honestly one moment where I thought that the CGI was very evident, and it was of course like 2004, 2005 CGI, so it didn't look great, but I kind of forgave it because of how great the other sequences of the house melting were. And it's like the final like shot of them like when it's crumbling and there's this big inferno from like the depths of the House of Wax. It definitely looked a little CGI. I think maybe when they're crawling through like the sign, there was just like one brief glimpse there where I was like, okay, this is definitely computer rendered. Other than that, it was like pretty flawless. And like you said, definitely a lot of the budget allocated to the effects. The whole set being made of wax was like very, very impressive. Yeah. It would have been so awesome as like a crew member to like just to watch it all melt. Like that would have been very cathartic, I think.
Yeah, basically, especially if this was done all at the end, you're just like, oh yeah, we're wrapping this thing up. That would have been really cool. I'm curious to know, like, so Dark Castle Entertainment did this movie, and that's what Joel Silver was actually remaking a lot of classic horror movies from back in the day through this production company. I don't know if you've seen the other ones. They did House on the Haunted Hill in 1999. They did 13 Ghosts. They did Ghost Ship. They did this. And then some of them weren't even remakes. They did Gothica with Halle Berry. Have you seen any of those?
No, I've not. Ghost Ship is the one that I've come the closest to seeing, and I'm probably the most familiar with. I've heard of them all, but I've never come across them yet.
They were Blumhouse before Blumhouse was Blumhouse back in the day. Because these were supposed to. This was their most expensive one, but like they were kind of like they were known for doing things on the cheap and making a pretty hefty profit. But I mean, I guess in the nature of what they wanted to do with this, like the budget had to be a little bigger for it.
Why do you think this one wasn't as commercially successful? Like I think it did all right. Like you said, it made 70 odd million worldwide.
Yeah, right. Domestically, it did only 32 million here, and then made the rest of its money overseas. And I mean, I guess like at the end of the day, it turned a profit. I kind of think that like I said, at this point, like movies like this were completely dying out. Like slash movies were dying out. I don't think, and I don't really think it mattered who was in them at this point. I think different types of horror movies were just like emerging, and I think that's why it wasn't as commercially successful. It made $42 million on VHS and DVD, and I think that's kind of a testament of like it becoming a cult movie after its theatrical run. Like maybe people that didn't want to give it a chance in theaters gave it a chance when it came out for home viewing, and I think its life grew there. It also came out during the summer. It came out in like early May of that year. So like
not peak horror movie season, that's for sure.
I want to look at what it came out against, but like I always wondered that too. Like because if it would have been one of the first of those Dark Castle Entertainment movies, I think it probably would have done a bit better. But I really think it was just like people were like wanting new types of horror films, and like slasher movies certainly weren't one of them. I'm looking. I saw it on opening night, like a silly person. Of course they did.
Oddly, or a weird coincidence, it actually did compete against one of our other anniversary picks, Kingdom of Heaven, at the box office. Which opened at number 1, so I guess it kind of borrowed. And then there was XXX State of the Union, which was a sequel to obviously Triple X, that was also out of the box office. So I feel like that maybe picked up some numbers too.
Yeah, your anniversary pick was the top movie that week.
I didn't realize that they opened at the same time. Yeah,
and this was only Amityville Horror had been out for 4 weeks when this came out. So I mean,
okay,
I don't know if this was a time where we have so many horror films out now, like the market is like heavily saturated. I think back then it was a little less common to have them out that close together, and when they were, it's like, oh, there's too many. Even there maybe like 2 of them, like one too many horror movies out, because Amityville Horror made money, and I think how bad did they do in its second week? Oh, yeah, it dropped pretty hard. It was like,
did it? Oh, that's the shame.
It went from second place to 6th place. Well, it only dropped. It dropped 45%. It dropped 45%, but
only off 12 million.
Yeah, and that it started out small, but made a lot of money worldwide. And I'm surprised it made a hefty amount in rentals, but critics did not like it. 28% on Rotten Tomatoes, and Roger Ebert actually, but Roger Ebert gave it 2 out of 4 stars. I thought he'd be worse about it. He wrote, House of Wax is not a good movie, but it is an efficient one and will deliver most of what anyone attending House of Wax could reasonably expect, assuming it would be unreasonable to expect very much.
Damn, Roger.
And then he said of Paris Hilton's performance that she is no better or worse than a typical dead post-teenager and does exactly what she required to do in a movie like this, with all the skill admittedly finite that is required for a role such as this.
He has such a polite way of roasting,
and I am imagining her reading that, her being like, oh my god, he liked me.
Do you think Paris Hilton read a Roger Ebert review? I
doubt it. I think her people probably handpicked like whatever good ones they could find and let her read those. But why do you think it's kind of like endured now, like as far as like compared? I mean, I guess it's hard for you because like you weren't, you didn't see it back then, but like, why do you think it kind of like something from 2005, like the type of music movie that it is? Why are people still, they latch more onto it now than they probably did then?
I think I don't know that I have an answer. If anything, I would say maybe just like any previous decade, modern audiences find and latch on to for the first time, and people that experienced it like yourself from that time period. Every decade sort of has a renaissance in the subsequent decade, I think. So I think people are sort of just the 2000s horror has become a beloved time before this transition to a different focus in horror. So maybe because just people are wanting to revisit the hallmarks from this era, maybe House of Wax is just kind of one that stood above the rest, perhaps. It's definitely not as like savagely critically roasted as like some of other 2000s remakes. So maybe like while people are sifting through what to watch, this one might sort of float closer to the top when compared to some of the other ones. But hard to say. I guess I do think that maybe when it was released kind of had something to do with why it found more success on home media.
Later.
Because I think May, just who's going to see something like this in May?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. This is my initial thoughts, I guess. I think maybe this movie's more popular in like in October or September.
And it's crazy because most of the Dark Castle Entertainment remakes came out around October. I'm surprised they didn't do that.
That's interesting. Maybe it was a busy year.
Yeah, I mean, like the House on the Hill came out around like a week before Halloween. Ghost Ship was like that too. Like, but they probably also thought with like the young adult names that they had in the movie that maybe it would sell more during the summer.
Yeah, perhaps.
Dude, all these like backhanded comments. There's another review from the San Francisco Chronicle that after a month, no one will talk about this movie again. Still, with a picture like this, there's only one real question: is it fun? Yes, lots, definitely. But that's not saying much. They were afraid to give it like a
it seems like they were
solid,
bordering on praise, but not really quite.
Decently solid review. I mean, whatever. I mean, it's a fun movie. I mean, it is what it is. It's not gonna win awards by any means, but it's certainly a good time. My biggest complaint was like it does feel long. I felt the length a little bit by the end of it.
An hour 53.
I feel like it has. Like it almost feels like a lot of these scenes feel like climaxes. So I was like, oh, it's not over yet. Oh. it's still going.
What are your thoughts on the final like reveal? I guess you could say like the cliffhanger that it ends on.
It's a bit unnecessary. I mean, like I guess they had to explain who the little like guy who rode them in the town. But I guess that's like true of like all these kind of like backwards hick town horror movies where there's like there's someone that kind of like lures these people who
shepherds the people into it.
Yeah. And they usually stop at a gas station or they usually stop somewhere like, oh, like we're like looking for this place and we can't quite get there. And like, or you're going the wrong way, you get there a lot quicker if you went that way. Like, so we can lure them to like a trap. So that character just could have been there as like someone that does that for them.
But as a secret third brother, I thought that was just a little bit too much.
But because like I can't remember, and I couldn't remember if there were hints that there was a third brother. It was like that was just something that they revealed at the end, right?
It came out of nowhere. Yeah. There's two high chairs. There's only two brothers featured in the opening sequence. We only ever really hear about two brothers. If there's a background detail, I missed it. But I thought Scream's very like 80s trope, like one last like thing for the audience to go out on, and it just
I think it's like
didn't really have a punch.
It didn't feel earned because I was like,
exactly.
And it's funny is like the way the line is read is that you could tell that they thought that like people in the theater are gonna be like, oh
that's how it came across. And I'm sitting there on my couch like, who gives a fuck?
And I can tell you back in 2005 that we didn't do that. Like it was kind of like it was a shrug, like, oh, okay, cool.
I think maybe if there was like any sort of indication that the leftover brother could in any way continue the work.
Oh yeah, if he was like capable or smart enough to do it, like, but he doesn't.
He's not. This saga is over. The threat is gone. Yeah. Like I don't think the Roadkill brother is going to continue this wax museum luring people off the interstate. But maybe if that was the case,
because I didn't really give credit when we were talking about it. Vincent, the look of the killer is actually pretty cool. I thought that was like he actually looks like. You're not. You're like no.
Well, I do think he looks good. However, I can't stop thinking about somebody that said he looked like Tommy Wiseau.
Oh, damn. That might ruin it.
Which is kind of funny. I think the look is good, but somebody mentioned that, and I just thought that is hilarious. But he gave me Leatherface vibes. I thought it was like more of a modern.
I think they probably were going for that, huh? I think they were really like these type of music. Like that is what they were really going. I mean, even if you watch the trailer, it gave, especially like it's comparable to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake.
Or Phantom of the Opera, maybe a little bit of both.
Oh, kind of that too. Yeah. I felt so stupid because it's a jump scare that gets me every time, and it got me again. Is when it wipes the mirror and then she sees him outside, and that got me again. And I've seen that I was like, "Fuck!" And
that's a good jump scare.
Yeah, but I thought I thought it looked cool. But now that you said that, now I can't unsee the Tommy Wiseau thing.
Mostly in the hair and like the build. Like I know the mask was pretty cool, and even when it's removed and his disfigured face is there, that looks good.
And Brian Van Holt got to play both of those parts, so good for him.
Which was news to me too today. I
thought one would be. I definitely thought the other would be a stuntman. They could have easily done that, but he got to play both parts.
It's pretty neat.
And also, this got nominated for 3 Razzie Awards, which I think is just more of an insult to like, because Paris Hilton won Worst Supporting Actress. She's not that bad.
Yeah.
That
was kind of an influence for me asking what you thought of her performance. I was curious if she was there to accept it or not. Do you know?
Oh, I don't think she did.
No.
I can't imagine she would do that. Yeah. And it was nominated for Worst Picture and Worst Remake or Sequel. However, she did win a Teen Choice Award for Best Scream Scene of the Year, which
nice.
Probably rests proudly on her mantle. And Chad Murray won best actor in a action adventure thriller at the Teen Choice Awards, and she was nominated for Best Scared as Shit Performance at the MTV Movie Awards. That's all the nominations this movie was getting. So there you have it. I think them giving her Worst Actress was more to be like kind of a mean. Like I don't like the Razzie Awards for this reason because like I don't think they always
mean-spirited. Yeah,
and I always think they nominate or make people win who actually deserve it. I think they're just trying to like get attention for their show or like not even their show, but like their institution because like they don't air them really. There is like a little ceremony, but they don't like air them on TV. So like, but yeah, I think that's kind of unnecessary. Like she wasn't that bad, guys. Like she delivered her lines. She was believable. Like she's not playing an heiress. So there you go. But
thing about Paris Hilton that I thought was funny is reportedly she was embarrassed by her scream, and so I think for the first take, she had the whole cast and crew scream with her while she
scream with her.
It. And I thought that was kind of a funny and almost like a kind of a cute story as like a novice actress, like a little bit intimidated by her big moment. I thought that was a fun way to circumvent that fear.
There's like some funny like chase scene stuff with different actors. Like Sarah Michelle Gellar, what she did, I Know You Did last summer, because she has a big chase scene in that. She had wrapped the first season of Buffy, so Buffy hadn't even aired yet. It was a mid-season replacement, so like she did that, and then when I Know You Did last summer, and the director said that when she was running like an athlete, and they're like, no, like you can't run like that, and then she kept doing it. So I guess they put rocks in her shoes because like she kept running like she was a pro. So they're like, you need to run like basically like a girl. and then that finally helped. Like that, she was like, she was more wobbly on her feet.
That's creative.
But they were like, no, she was running like a legit athlete. They were like, no, you're not. Like, what did you just shoot? And like, she couldn't say because they hadn't aired yet. She was like, oh, this little show. It's gonna be a big thing one day, and it was. I guess we're at the point where we have to, unless you have anything else you want to say about House of Wax.
No, we got everything. What were you gonna say next?
I guess we have to score it.
Oh yes, I'll let you lead. It's your pick after all. I think you might be surprised at what I have to say.
It might be.
You let us know.
Fuck. I have to like manage my enjoyment and then what it is as a film.
I know
that's why it's hard.
I know.
Yeah, because like I enjoyed every moment of it for the most part. It was fun. I had a good time revisiting it, and it's shot well. And then it has way better production values than most slasher movies of this kind. So, but I know it's deeply flawed. I mean, I'll give it 3.5 and be happy with that.
That's like a pretty restrained. I know you like it.
I know, and I do, and like, what's funny? I feel like if Mark was on here, he'd be like, I'll give it 4. a solid.
He's very forgiving. Yeah,
I have to be. I'm only doing this because I want to be careful with how we give these scores out, because, like you said, there's the enjoyment factor of like, oh, I had a fun time watching it. Or are we grading it for that? Or are we grading it as like a piece of cinema?
Right.
And I guess it all changes depending on the movie.
It does. I'm glad that you shout that out, because it very much does. Like, this is more of like an in-depth analysis of like a new release, I wouldn't necessarily be.
We're not grading The Godfather,
right? And a lot of my score is comparing it to like some of the other 2000s horrors that we've watched for the show, a lot of which I have not liked at all. So this one is definitely rated higher, and for that reason, I'm gonna give it a 2.5. Like, I think as much as there was for me to dislike in it, it was overshadowed by some other like technically good aspects or moments or sequences.
Yeah.
And shout out to Wade's Sequence of Suffering. I love that new term that you've just coined.
It's just so long. And then what I do appreciate about the cut, even though it is funny that he finally Dalton and them are like Yeah, Wade's not so bad. I do love that cut from like they finally like acknowledge that he's a cool dude, and then the next shot is him being dragged across the ground, and about to die. Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised you gave it 2.5. I mean, that means you enjoyed it more than I Still Know You Did Last Summer, which is great.
That's not a high bar to pass though. So, and I enjoyed it more than the Friday the 13th remake, more than even Texas Chainsaw.
I was going to ask you that because Jared Padalecki is in. He's in the Friday 13th remake as well, and I was going to ask you which one of them do you prefer because he's in both of them, and you just answered my question.
Which character? I don't remember him in.
He's the brother. He's looking for his sister because like she's in the opening scene, right? And then he's the one. Yeah,
he's in the second half.
He's in the second half. He's in the part of the movie that's not as good as the rest of as the first part of the movie. But I will say this too. I think House of Wax is a much better remake than Friday the 13th. I mean, I as far as those, if we're comparing them, I think it's a much better experience and it's more fun. And
yeah, I find it
because Friday the 13th dropped the ball in such a big way for me. But after that, like opening sequence, it's like so good, and then it just
and then it cuts to something that not nearly as captivating or scary.
Yeah.
I think that House of Wax is a little bit in a better position than Friday the 13th, 2009, because it's not really constrained to the same narrative. It's hardly a remake, right? Like you said, in name only, not like in a necessarily a bad way, but where Friday the 13th, 2009 is just more conventional to the first one. Yeah. It's hard to really innovate in that sense. So other than, I guess they did in a way by cutting the movie in two parts essentially, but just there wasn't as much creative room there like there was in this one. And I think House of Wax comes out on top largely because of that, but
it's also
I definitely liked it more.
This is also better than the Halloween remake. I saw what you like have put like.
I couldn't resist tagging me in that. I was like, oh and my god!
And what's funny is like, I was like, why did he tag me in this? And I viewed the original post, and I was like, that's gross.
I thought that was hilarious. I shook my head.
And I think House of Wax is better than that Rob Zombie remake. I mean, whatever of Halloween. I mean,
that would be something that I am legitimately thinking about, which I think I would give. I think I would give it to the Rob Zombie Halloween. I think maybe just because I've gone back to that movie more.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. I don't find it scary either, but I don't know. I'm a little bit biased, perhaps.
Yeah. I will say two things. One, I every time we kind of cover movies around this period, I realize that you do not really enjoy this time period of horror movies. Like you can tell, I can tell when you're like, the 2000s aesthetic, you really know and are aware of it.
Yeah,
like for someone that didn't really grow up with it, you're hyper aware of like what these movies are and what they look like. I mean, even comes down to like the look, the soundtrack. Like I was like, look, I love
the rock soundtrack. I gotta admit,
well, I did too. That. But when the movie ended, I was like so thrown by the My Chemical Romance song again.
Helena.
I was like, but it's very much a product of its time too. Like it was just like, oh, this. And so like I'm aware of the aesthetic, and I'm also actually happy that you're aware of it. I mean, to be like, I don't like it. But I'm not really a fan of it.
I was struggling with this too while preparing for this episode because I'm like, this is ultimately, it's not like a completely negative review by me, but like there's a decent amount of like negative complaints I had. And I'm like, there's just so many that I feel like I'm negatively talking about this genre and era, but like there's lots of 2000s horrors that I do love. I love the Wrong Turn series, which is all from this time period. I love
which actually has the aesthetic too that you may not
exactly. So I don't know that I can really articulate sometimes why some over the others, but some I do really like. It's just we haven't really gotten to some of those that I do really enjoy. But it does seem like I'm usually shitting on 2000s slashers, which there are quite a few that I'm not a fan of, but
I feel like you're like, what was in the water back then, guys? Like, why was everyone why are they shot the same way?
Independently from what I'm thinking, like from the show, I'm thinking about like the 2000s, and I'm like, that was a great time period for a horror. And then we talk about one, I'm like, I didn't really like that one. I didn't really like this one either. I don't know what it is, but
I don't hate it. I think a lot of it, what was good was probably stuff out of this wheelhouse, like not so much the remakes that were emerging back then. I mean, I think there were some original horror movies that
maybe
came
that's
out
what
during
it
that
is.
period that were good. But the
Wolf
ones
Creek,
that
another
were,
one I love from this
yeah,
time period.
I love Wolf Creek. There's another one that turns has an anniversary in June. I love High Tension. I know it's a foreign horror movie, but like it's a very divisive, polarizing one because a lot of people don't love the ending. But I love that movie a lot. But yeah, I think it's a product of like, especially I think it's the ones that were aimed at young people that kind of have the worst problems.
Yeah,
like
maybe.
And like it's interesting because they weren't, and like I was in a position in 2005 where I loved a lot of these movies, of course, in the late 90s, but even I at this point, like with some of them, were like, this isn't working for me anymore.
Right,
like,
you would have lived through these like
yeah.
years and years of horror shifting away from.
So like I was like, my taste is changing. Like I like some of this stuff still, but it's definitely not what it used to be. But I can definitely know what you're talking about when like it's just like I feel like there's like a mid 2000s filter on these movies where you just know exactly what it is.
100%. Yes, there is. But yeah, that's how to say I dislike them all. I think there's a trend here with the remakes are really where I struggle with some of the movies from this time period. But there are a lot of goldies from this time, and I'm sure eventually we'll cover some. We've covered a couple of them.
It would have been interesting to know if you were like the age you are at now when Hollywood was just like, once they hit it big with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they remade every single horror title they could. And I know that you're not a big fan of us, like, let's just do it because it might make money. And like, I would have been interesting to like realize what you would have thought then, because like it was like obscure. I mean, like I love Black Christmas, but like at the time that they chose to remake it, everyone wasn't talking about it. It was like a niche, like old school horror movie,
right?
Amongst horror fans. But like, if you were to ask, like, it wasn't in the league with like Halloween or Friday the 13th. People didn't know what it was.
It's like the black sheep of like 70s.
Yeah. Once you start going to like The Fog and When a Stranger Calls and Prom Night, I was like, they're like digging in the box. Like, what hasn't been done yet? What do we have the rights to? Like, so like it was fun in the sense that like I think when they remade those movies, I think a lot of people saw them, they did decently well, but I truly believe that it allowed audience to discover the older ones too.
Yes, which is always the good part of remaking something.
And if you are a viewer that is, hopefully not just like, oh, like it's old, I don't want to watch it. Like you'll appreciate the older movie and for what it was. So there was that part of it that was good, I guess. That people got to rediscover, and it made those like older titles a bit popular again. But some of them are just like ultimate sins. Like we talked about The Hitcher. The remake of The Hitcher is like awful.
Oh yeah, and I love that original. It was a great watch.
Like the gender swapping thing wasn't necessary. I love Sophia Bush; she's lovely. Wasn't necessary.
Right.
There's a few of them, and I also lastly what I'll say too about this is I talk about how old some of these make me feel when we do them. I know we've talked about older anniversaries, but like this does not feel 20 years old to me. It doesn't look it.
Is that right?
It doesn't.
No,
it doesn't look it. It doesn't
20.
feel like it. And I when it came up, I was like, oh my God, like that's a long time ago.
Well, rest assured, it is 20 years old. It is crazy.
We might have to like drop anniversary so I don't feel so old on the show. You're like, no. But yeah, thank you for sitting through this one for me. And
I was happy to
as our pick. And I will try to like switch these up when we pick them because like I thought
funny, watch whatever you want. I'm happy you do it. We each get our own movie to make the other watch every month, and I love that. And I'm subjecting you to a 3-hour swords and sandals epic, so that's no small feat either. So you're sitting through double the length, well, almost double. If this movie was adequately like scheduled, you'd be basically sitting through twice the movie. With
Kingdom of Heaven. I
had Tears of Heaven for some reason in my head,
which is like the Bruce Willis movie.
Tears of the Sun.
Yeah, there you go. Fuck. There you go. Somewhere.
But yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think when you said Tears, I think I was thinking of the Eric Clapton song too, which I think it's
that's what I was thinking. Yeah, Tears from Heaven. Yes.
Oh, there was a 3-way mix up.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. But that's the joy of the show. Like we get to like have fun with stuff like this. Like
so you can select whatever you want.
We could be talking about this in Ninja Turtles one day and then Crash and American Psycho the next. So like it makes it more fun.
Yeah.
Like to not talk about the same movies. But yeah, I guess you can wrap us on up there.
Yes, this marks episode 241 of Back to the Blockbuster, guys. So thanks again for tuning in for another anniversary. This was been 20 years of House of Wax. Let us know if you've seen it or if you guys are looking for something to watch on a sunny afternoon in almost June. Throw it on. Let us know what you guys think. Thanks for staying around to the end of the episode, guys. Stay tuned for many more. As Gaius mentioned, we do have a leftover April anniversary episode coming your way with the Virgin Suicides and another couple from May. So stay tuned to those episodes. We're getting those recorded here in the next few days. And as always, you guys can find us wherever you guys get your podcasts. But if you feel so inclined, head on over to your mobile device's app store, download the Playlist Studio app, and you guys can listen to Back to the Blockbuster there. Leave us a review if you're a fan of the show. And as always, we will catch you on the next episode. So Gaius, thanks as always. Great chatting movies with you, my friend, and I'll see you on the next one.